Thank you. Hey guys, welcome to our Friday beading class. I'm just gonna hit the button right here. There we go. Today we have a really fun, super beginner friendly class to create a right angle weave charm bracelet. And there's a lot of course, variations and spins you can take this to, but the general premise is we're going to create some little drops with size 6 seed beads and then use a right angle weave stitch with different size 8 and size 6 to kind of give it some dimension, give it some texture, and make a place for the charm to sit. So super easy, super fun, quick for the holidays, for gifting, and you can always, make it into an anklet or a choker necklace. It could become so many great things. So yeah, so here on the mat, I've got just all of the supply or some of the supplies laid out and a close-up view of the actual design. And there's a couple different colorways that I've got here, but there's sky's the limit for the colors you can do. You can have it be, in all one color if you want. You can change it up with a mix. I used the glacier mix for this one, and I thought that was kind of cool because I offset each of the little colors that are in that mix with the size 6 element here. So that's something you can play with, or you can just go with a solid, which was the original here. I'll stick with this one today because that makes it really clear to see which part of the bracelet we're working on. But then, after you try it once, you can change it up and bring in a mix and see what kind of a result you get. And so let's see the materials. For materials, I'm using our usual Wildfire thread. So that's the 0.006. That's what I usually have around. The 0.008 might work as well for this design. This is one of those designs where we have to reinforce it, and 0.008 may or may not be easier depending on whether or not you like to reinforce. I'm more into reinforcing it myself and having the flexibility to go through my 11s a little bit easier. So I recommended the 0.006 for that reason, but feel free to try your 8 if that's what you have handy. And then I've got the size 10 beading needles for this one. You'll need some 2-inch head pins. And the gauge isn't as important, 24 gauge or 22 gauge, whatever you have in your stash. Or you could also just use some artistic wire, or you could use some German style wire and do a knotted head pin. So lots of different ways you can get a bead made into a dangle, and we'll go through making those. But the goal is to create about 12 to 14 of these little dangles just by doing a wrap loop on top. And we'll make a couple of those. The seed beads that I've got here are 2 contrasting colors of size 6. Got a size 11, and this is only needed on the ends. It's used to finish it. Just here on the sides. And then there's also some size 8. And the size 8s are like the little connection points. So they're the ones that are in between here, in between each of the little size 6 segments. And then you can see some opportunities for variation as you can stack another little bead on top of your size 6 if you want. And I did that in one, and on the other I didn't, and both ways looks really cool. So definitely, spin this with your own design eye and see what you like. For the thread length, I cut 60 inches of the Wildfire, and 60 inches is good for making about 12 to 14 repeats. You should be able to do that without adding thread. But if you want to add a little more thread and just pull down a little more here, that can be helpful too. And let's see, for right at the end, we're going to pull in some findings. And so I just have a findings pack handy with jump rings and either a spring ring clasp or a lobster claw or any clasp that you have handy that you'd like to use. And then just for tools, really quick, scissors for cutting your thread. And then you're going to need some wire working tools to make our wraps and to do jump rings. So I've got some flush cutters, some chain nose pliers, and some round nose. Those will what I'll be using first. And I will probably pull out my other pliers, the square nose and the bent nose, to do my jump rings later. All right, let me go ahead and pour out some beads here. And I'm going to get a couple more of these blue, or actually this is the mint julep color. If you're loving this color, this is mint julep. And I'm going to make 2 more of those dangles. And so I just I work these first and just get them all ready to go and set them in a dish aside while I'm stitching. But just, stringing it on there. And then you want to get some of your round nose pliers. And this is kind of my style for wrap loops. There's a lot of really great wire working tutorials done by Meredith and Sarah for Beadalon. So if wire working is new to you and you want to check out some of their classes on things like wire gauge and tools, they go into a lot more detail than I'm going into here. But what I'm going to show you here is just kind of my go-to way to make a quick wrap loop on something fragile like a seed bead, because I don't want to break my bead by, using the wire too close to it. So the tip of these pliers, I will go kind of right to the edge, just kind of like that. And I'm going to use that as a way to push it forward. And that just prevents it breaking. So you're going to get a loop that looks like that with some space to make your wrap. And now I'm working up away from my beads so I can be a little more flexible about how I'm going to do that. So I had the pliers like this when I bent it forward. So at a 90-degree angle there. Now I'm going to bring the pliers up 90 degrees. So there, and don't worry, I'll do this twice, but so now they're sitting in the opposite direction there. And just bring that wire all the way around. I'm going to slide up a little bit so my loop is a little bigger. And now again, I'm moving it 90 degrees and continuing back around the back with my loop. So now I've got a really good looking loop there. And there's a couple ways you can wrap them. You can keep it on the round nose, or you can just use some chain nose pliers to hold it in place and bring that around. Both of those ways works just fine. And then just start making a wrap. And mine's a little bent forward there, so I'm just gonna bend it back. So there I've got my loop. I'm gonna trim it. And when you're trimming these tails, position it like this, but then right before you cut, unless you're wearing safety glasses, it's a good idea to just put your hand over it. I've had them go flying on occasion and they do go straight for your eye. It's like Murphy's Law. So I always, try to remind myself to do that as well. And I'm going to go ahead and just use my round nose to hold it so I can push my tail down. I've got a pretty big tail going there, if you can see that there. Just going to push it down with my, sorry, I went off camera there. Let's get back in focus here. All right, I'm going to tuck the tail. Not if you can see it, but I just used these, the little pointy side, just to tuck that tail down. So there's one. So let's make one more. I'm going to raise the camera up just a little bit because the way that I'm working is too, it's too low for tools. So let's see. I'm going to grab another head pin. And my last seed bead here. Find those round nose. And again, I just bent those forward at a 90-degree angle. Now I'm going to bring the pliers up 90 degrees and start going around. And then just bring that wire so that it's crossing itself there to make a loop. Once you've got your loop, go ahead and hold that loop with your tool, either on your round nose pliers or with your chain nose, and just get a wrap going. You can do 2 or 3 wraps. I think I tend to just go with whatever I've got room for in that moment. I haven't stayed consistent about it. So there's that loop done. All right, let's get back on here. And press that down. Okay. So how's everybody feeling about the wrap loops? Are they something that everyone's, done before and seen before.
Danielle, I'm watching sidebar for you, and I think we're okay.
Okay.
I just thought, I don't know when you do it, but it might be a nice idea to just spend an evening making these ahead of time. So
Yeah,
it might be relaxing. I know when I've made them, my first one or two, the loops are a little bit wonky. And, as I make more and more, each loop is more perfect until they're all the same. So as Wanda said, a whole pile of dangle charms piling up is so satisfying.
that's so true, Wanda. I agree 100%. I love having a little dish full of them, and they can become so many things. Which is
Yes,
great to have
and
around.
Sharon has not ever done them, but she doesn't fear doing them now. So thank you.
Oh, that's awesome, Sharon. That's great to hear. Cool. Okay, so if everybody's good with the dangles, I'm gonna go ahead and start the stitched part. So what I have here is I've cut 60 inches of our beading thread. I've got some size 8 seed beads, and I'm gonna grab some size 6, and I'm gonna use this bright lemon yellow, the citron yellow color. So I thought it would look cool next to those. And I don't need my 11s yet, so I'm not gonna get those out yet. We'll need those at the end. Okay, and so for the first part of right angle weave, you'll be starting with 4 seed beads on your needle. Bring it down, leave a good tail, 10 inches or so. We're going to use that just to create a connection with our clasp. So 10 inches is a great length of tail to leave. And then go ahead and come back through all those beads, all 4 of the size 8 seed beads that we just strung. I'm going to pull tight. And then you'll get something that looks like this, where you've got a little bit of space here in your thread. If you come back through that first bead one more time, it will tighten up really nicely. So see, you've got that little gap there, but when we pull, we should get a little square, a little star. And so that's the first section. And you can go around and reinforce it one more time, just for some extra stability. With this very first one, we're going to end up going through it an extra time because we're going to add that clasp at the end. So just thinking about that when you're reinforcing it, if you were using the 8, the 0.008 Wildfire, maybe one pass was enough. Just try it and see what you think about how it's looking. But less wobbly while you're working will make a better experience stitching this than if it's moving around. Okay, and so what I did is I kept going in a circle until I'm exiting from the one that's directly across from where my tail is. And I'm going to build the next section with a size 6. So for that, you'll want to pick up one size 6 and go through the loop on one of your dangles and pick up one more size 6. Then you'll need 1 8 and 2 more 6s. So again, that's a 6, a dangle, 6, an 8, and then 2 6s there. And after you've got those, go back through your first one here. This is the one we're exiting. And pull tight. And there's our first section. I'm going to go around that and reinforce the whole thing. I'm going to go back through all those beads, and I'm going to try to exit from over here on the pass back through. So I'm just going through once, because you can see it's really, really wobbly. The 6s are, they're moving around, and it just helps to have one more pass through. Oops. I'm working with a really long strand. I should probably move that down. Here we go. All right. Okay, so I just need to get back over here. So going one more time through that connection with my dangle and back up through this one. And there we go. And Now I just need 3. So with red angle weave, you're always working with a series of 4s, but once you've already got a bead on there that you're building onto, you only need to add 3 to complete your square. So from here on out, you're going to see me adding just 3 of the size 8 beads for these sections, for these center sections here. And I'm going to reinforce it by going through all of those one more time. And I'm going through them one by one. This is something I learned from watching a very, very talented, experienced bead weaving designer that I follow. And what she does is she goes through each one individually for red angle weave, so she doesn't disrupt her square. I think it'll work regardless. I really do think that once you've tightened it, your square is going to form just fine. But getting my square to stay like that just by going one by one through it kind of works for me. So I've always done that. It's something you can play with and see if you like it. But I thought it was kind of a neat tip. And so here's 2 size 6 seed beads, and then between I've got the dangle size 8, and then 2 more of the size 6. Same thing again. I'm going to come back through this first one here. And there's another little segment, super cute, really, really cute design. And this is just that reinforcing step. And again, I'm going through each of the sides of my cube, I guess if you call it a cube. With these 2, I'm treating these 2 as like one bead. And I keep going through in kind of just handling each side or each direction individually. And so you see, it kind of pops it into place. I feel like I'm not totally sure if it wouldn't just do that anyway, but I like doing it that way. It takes a little bit longer, but style. So here's 3 more, and this is really the whole design. I'll do a couple more, and then we can put the clasp on one side and see how everyone's doing. If there's plenty of time, I can start again and show you the beginning of this design. Let's keep going here.
Hey, Danielle, sidebar is good.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
please feel free to, oh, go ahead.
So when people learn, because this is an important stitch in beadwork, right?
It is, yeah.
You've been teaching us so many stitches, but this is an important one. Would you have done this maybe by not adding the charm?
Oh, yeah.
As a starter? Like it works without the charm, obviously.
Oh, yeah, it completely does. We can do a few segments without a charm and see. It also would work just fine with using only 1 size 6 bead instead of 2. Okay. I added 2 because I wanted to have, a center point for my charm, but you don't have to do that. You could absolutely change it up. And some of the other designs that we've done that feature this stitch, there's been quite a few. In April, we featured it, and like every single design was a spin on red angle weave. It was that super duo, like Regency style pendant. So you can do right angle weave with a super duo.
Yes.
And we're actually going to do that in a different design on the 10th of December. Just to give you guys a sneak preview of reviewing right angle weave, because we're going to do right angle weave with a super duo coming up. I'm going to go right through this, and then I thought I'll do one more of the little segments, and then let's see what happens if I just do one section without a dangle and using just one of these. So for symmetry, I'm just going to throw one more of these on.
Danielle, have you ever made this bracelet with charms on both sides?
I haven't, but I think that will look really cute. Especially since on a bracelet, you can have 2 sections of charms. What I have done on this bracelet is put something in the middle. And that is actually kind of what we did in April in a way. But I used, between 3 and 5 instead of 2. So we had somewhere to jump. We'd jump out of one, across and into the other, come around, jump out of one, go across. That's a way to add a big bead if you wanted to do something kind of more statement. I've also seen there was a design that the Beadalon team did with gemstones in red angle weave. I believe it was Sarah Lovecraft's design. I should try to find that. And I have so many things that I want to make that I've seen other designers do. And I haven't, I keep a list. Oh, try that, and then just don't get around to doing it. But that is definitely one that I want to revisit. And when I do, I'll post a link because it was really cool. So I'm doing something a little different here, just to kind of play with right angle weave in general. I threw 3 size 6 seed beads on there, and I'm going to go back through this one. This is just a regular, kind of repeat of a single bead right angle weave, and that looks great. But something else you could do, I was just thinking, I'm going to go back out. You could also do this. So I want to kind of balance it with my 8. String 1, grab an 8, and another 6, and then try that. And that looks really cool too. It's a little more symmetrical there. Let's see what happens if I reinforce that. Okay, this is a really great way to not have to make as many dangles. You could do one with a dangle and then use this as a jump. Maybe switch the color or the bead size even, and going. Let's see how that looks there. All right, yeah, that looks really cool. That was a great idea. Yeah, I like that. That is another little spin you could put on it and see if you like that look too.
Thanks, Danielle. There's a couple people that may not do the dangle. So
Okay.
now you've shown them how it looks, and I definitely urge them to try this technique too.
Yeah, and I think alternating them also, that would be very cool. I think Sharon was saying that, and that would be a really neat way to not have to make as many dangles if you didn't want to. And there was another idea that I didn't try, but I thought about putting more, like a dangle here and then doing another section just like it. And then, so that would be, you would need to make double the amount of dangles, if that makes any sense. So there's just so many different things you can do. They're so cool. I thought I would make one with, 2 that doesn't have a dangle, just to see how that looks. And it seems like, if everybody, understood the start and finish of this, we can play around a little bit with some ideas. One pops up, let me know. Going through that one. So this step I'm doing where, keep going around and around, that was the key to the whole thing. Honestly, it's the only way that it would really work for me. But there's one without a dangle, but has 2. And some charms have their, some of the charms will have a hole that's directly, so it would be sideways if you tried to string it. And you really wouldn't want to use an open jump ring with thread, because that would be less secure. But a lot of the charms now you can find have the, I guess the hole kind of perpendicular to it. If you find something like that, that will work here too. You could do like a big center charm, and then seed bead dangles up to the center charm and back, and just so many cool things.
Thanks, Danielle. I think because we've got some good timing, I think you should just show one more time how to do 2 with the charm,
Okay,
and then we'll start focusing on how to do the closures.
perfect. All right.
So just walk us through that step again.
Oh, the step of putting the dangle on?
Yes.
Yes,
Tell us
okay.
what you're doing.
So what I've done here is I've thrown on I'm doing the middle segment really quick, which is just putting on 3 size 8s and going through the last size 8. So you end up with a total of 4. And then I'm going through it all over again to make it strong. There we go. Okay, so now I'm just going to pick up 1 size 6 and 1 dangle and then a 6. And you'll just need a size 8 and 2 size 6s. Not, that was just the pattern that I liked, but absolutely not the only pattern you can try. I just thought it looked kind of cool. All right, I'm going through this one. The reinforcing doesn't really take that long. I feel like once you get the flow of it and you're just going. Okay, and so from here, you would just keep going and building onto it. But I might go ahead and just do one more segment of the 8 and then show putting the clasp on. Because the clasp is built off the segment that has 3 size 8 seed beads as the last beads. For that total of 4. All right, so there's that last one. Now we're going to need our size 11 seed beads. And any kind of color that you like will work. I'm just grabbing things that are bright and different so that they stand out really nicely on the camera. All right, and so from here, I need to get to a new spot. I want to go around one more time to exit from that top bead. The top bead in my square there. So I'll lay that out again so you can see which one. I'm exiting from this one. I'm going to build a loop around, and you can play with this count. I think what I went with in the end was 6 sometimes and 8 sometimes. So let's see here. I'm doing 8 right now. You want to skip the bead on the end and just jump over the other one. And then take a look at that. Make sure you've got room for a jump ring. And sometimes I think 6 works. It depends. I think I might have been using a size 10 when I tried it the first time, and I thought 6 was good. 8 seems a little better with 11, but that's another one of those things where it's up to you and your eye and what you like the look of. And also what you have, what you have on hand in your stash. And of course, I'm just going to reinforce all of this and keep going around. And I would probably do that one more time. For added security, you go through that one more time and just make sure that, whoop, I decided to knock my camera down. Sorry, guys. I have my what's it called? My light placed a little differently today, and so I'm getting used to it. But I think it's brighter. I'm hoping it's brighter for you guys that you can see. We're working on improving that all the time. Okay, so I'm going to just quickly go through all of these again. And if you're having any trouble getting through, if you're using the 0.008 instead of the 0.006 Wildfire, which is what I'm using here, if you're having any trouble, switch to a size 12 beading needle and see if that's a little easier. But there it is, a cute little loop on there, and I'm going to weave in and then get a clasp. And so showing the weaving in case you wanted to make one of these that's really long and you end up having to add thread, that is really easy to do in writing a weave because you have lots of turns, so many places. So I usually just do that. It takes a little bit of time. I go through, usually I'll take my thread through 3 segments if I can. And if I don't have 3 segments available to me, meaning like my thread's too short to make it that far, I will show you a place you can knot. The easiest, most like kind of secure place, and a place where you don't see the knot very much. So I'm going to keep going through here. Oops. So I'm just turning all the directions that I did before. It's what in bead weaving they say following your thread path, and that's what I'm doing here. And then what if I wanted to make a knot? Where's a good place for that? Well, I was thinking about it and I thought in between my 6s would be a good spot just because it would hide it, but it actually showed a lot more in that spot. So I'll go through one more 6 and make a knot in front of my 8. And it kind of hides itself back in the 6, and then keep going, go through that next 8, make another knot here. And then go through your 6s. So that's another good way to get your thread woven in if you didn't want to keep going and weaving in. I tend to sometimes do not knot, but I'll use this as a way to reinforce anything that I'm not feeling really excited about in my design. If it's loose somewhere, I'll weave to get there and then fix it. So lots of opportunities to come back and make it a tighter design or, you know, change it up a little bit. But yeah, so that's one side. And then just putting on the clasp, I'll do that really quick because I know sometimes there's questions about that too. I get some jump rings. And the findings packs have 3 different size jump rings in them. I really like the mediums and the large ones for linking my lobster claws to them. Grab one of those. Actually, I don't have lobster claws in front of me. I think I used my last one. So let's put the regular chain. I'm going to trim this first so it's out of our way. There we go. And I'm going to grab, so for jump rings, it's totally just my style and you don't have to use these, but I like to use square nose to open and close my jump rings. And then I'll grab these bent nose pliers, and it visually works for me and it works for my wrist for how to laterally open a jump ring. So your jump rings have like they'll have an open seam here at the top. And so I'll align my square nose pliers with the side of my jump ring so that my seam is this way. And then laterally open it in like a lateral motion. I'm hooking that on. I'm going to hook a big one and then a small one because I'm making a chain. And if this was my lobster claw side, I would have just put a lobster claw on there. There we go. Big one and the small one will go after that. There we go. Okay, so there's a small jump ring, one of the big ones. I'm going to get the small one here. Put that on there. And while I'm here, grab the big one. There's a clicking sound you'll get when you close those jump rings. And I thought that looked like kind of a cool chain, just mixing up the sizes a little bit for some visual interest. And last but not least, I'm going to put some weight on the end. Because when you're putting on a bracelet, it helps to have an anchor. And our size 6 seed beads will fit on these jump rings from the findings packs pretty nicely. So let's get that one on there. And there it is. It's really cute. The larger jump ring, I think, can accommodate two of, let me take a look and see what I did here. Yeah, the larger ones, I was able to get 2 size 8s on there. So the 2 size 8s is another cute little way to do it, or 1 size 6, and that's actually the medium jump ring there. Looks like I went small medium on that. So totally up to you which style you think is the best look.
Hey, Danielle, we love the mixed size of jump rings. That
Cool.
is definitely on the sidebar. And when you made the orange link,
Uh-huh.
you chose not to put a jump ring in, you added it after.
Oh, yeah.
Would you have ever put the jump ring in as you were adding those beads, or it's just as quick to open it like you did?
Let's see. Well, yes, you can totally do that. I think it would work just fine. The reason I didn't is when I weave back through it, I went back through it 3 times and I didn't want to have to dodge my jump ring.
Got it.
But I think that it wouldn't have been a big deal to dodge it. It's just, I'm already kind of working in an awkward angle here. So I wanted to make it as easy as possible to see what I was, the position of that thread is kind of, it's going in 3 times through an 11. It's a tight connection there.
Okay, then you've answered Kylie's question. Thank you.
Cool. And yeah, so I can finish the other side if you guys want to see finishing it again.
Yes,
Awesome.
definitely.
Okay, I'm going to finish the other side of this one. It's a little short for a bracelet at the moment, but it's the same process. You would have just built it out and kept building it out until you got to the length that you like. And I'm just going to bring a needle over here. I flattened this with pliers so that it goes through my needle easier. Flattened the end of my Wildfire. All right, I come through. Bringing that
Danielle, we're continuing on the sidebar to have a little bit of a discussion. And another great tip from Jessie is she uses a split ring, weaves it in, and then it's a really secure jump ring to start your chain.
That would work for the charms too. That's a great idea. Yeah, I think that would work really well. I didn't, I think they absolutely do have those at Michael's, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I've always been looking for closed ones. And I have a bunch of closed ones from John Bead, but I wasn't able to find them at my local. But I think a split ring would be a great alternative. So that's really good. Thank you so much for that. And I'm stringing 8 here. Again, these are size 11s that I'm using in orange. So there's 8 on there. And I'm going to come back through and make another loop. And then that same thing before, just going to reinforce it. Takes a little bit of time, but it's not too bad. And you can, of course, go ahead and put your split ring on at that step when you do that first loop through.
Danielle, I know you picked these colors just so we could see it being built during the class, but it turns out a lot of us like this palette after all.
I like it too.
It's a little bit Easter, but that's okay.
I was thinking the same thing. I just did Easter on Thanksgiving. It is really cool. All of these colors tend to match. So whenever we get our class samples together in a big photo, it looks so good together because we tend to work with these primary opaques the most, and
yes,
they all match. And that's pretty much it right there. I'm just going to weave in.
Somebody mentioned it's very 90s.
It is.
Yeah, it's very 90s.
So this seed bead stitch that I'm using Wildfire because I'm a bead weaver and I love to thread a needle and stitch something up. That's soothing for me and I enjoy that medium. But this design would work with 49 strand fine beading wire. would also work with cord. If you can fit the cord through the beads, you could kind of do a macrame version. And I find 0.5 millimeter like cord will go through most of the seed beads. So just something to think about if you're, you know, if you're a stitcher like me, you're like, yeah, I'm getting Wildfire out and I'm gonna stitch it. But if you're wanting to try something faster, that the beading wire, you won't have to reinforce it. So that was just something I kept thinking about as I was working through, you know, writing it up and everything. Like, I wonder if this will work that way. So if you try that, shoot me a message and let me know, because I'm wanting to try it. I don't know when I'll get to try it, but it's made me really curious. So do you guys want to see putting a jump ring on that again, or
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, do it.
All right, I did find a lobster claw. I hid them from myself earlier. I sorted these because I'm a nerd. So I sorted them all and hid them from myself. But now I've got lobster claws in one, and let's grab some.
Danielle, I think we have a few new people, so just take a little extra time to explain how you open that jump ring and close it properly.
Oh, okay, that's good to know. Yeah, we'll do. Let's see, I'm gonna grab a medium jump ring. I like the mediums with the lobster claws. They're a good, I feel like they're a good size complement. And when I say medium, small, large, I'm referring to the assortment that comes in that findings pack. That's the one that I'm using here. But they're, just to give you a size range, these are about 5 millimeter medium. These large ones up here look to be about 8 millimeter. And they have a tiny little 4 millimeter one in there too. Okay, and so all of the jump rings are open, meaning they're not soldered closed, and they have a seam at the top. You can feel it. If it's hard to see it, you can just feel it. And then I am using square nose pliers. They're just like a chain nose, but square shaped. And I do that because it holds more, you know, more of the side of it, like that. And my seam's up here. I'm always pointing my seam away from me, so that when I come along with the bent nose pliers, which again is chain nose with a bend to it, which gives me the ability to work in this direction. So I'm looking down at my work, and when I open the jump ring, I'm not going to pull it apart. I'm going to turn one of my pliers 90 degrees, just like that. So I'm preserving the shape of that jump ring. And now I'm going to put on this lobster claw. And I'm going to grab the other end of my bracelet there and just close it. And again, to close it, just come back the same direction, that opposite of the way you went. And you'll get a cute little design just like that. And they do work up pretty fast. You can stitch one of these in 45 minutes and have it all done, and experiment with different dangles and different ways to, you know, like if you were to do a different color for every segment, that would be really cool. Like maybe a rainbow one. Yeah. So I was wondering if there's any more questions out there about this design, or if we've got extra time, so we could try ideas. We could do.
No, we're good, Danielle. I'm just watching the sidebar, and a few of us, when you said 45 minutes, are automatically budgeting 2 hours. So, and laughing. So maybe the first one will be 2 hours. The second one could be less. But I think it would be great if you could if you have the original handy. A few people would love to see the original. Now that we know what we're looking at, it makes way more sense.
Yeah, that makes sense, that to see the design finished. So it has 2 different colorways here that I played around with. This is the Glacier Mix here with some opaque white 8.0. And this one is purple chalk 8.0. And then this is the, it's like a crystal fuchsia lined amethyst color, size 8, with the blue iris. And I did something a little different on the glacial one for my ending. I did a knotted head pin with some, looks like 22 gauge artistic wire.
That's great to see. You're just one-upping the design, especially for those of you who are online who are selling your finished pieces. That's just one way to make it look even prettier.
Yeah, totally. Because these look really great on a bar, all next to each other in bright different colors. They're eye-catching. So somebody walking by is going to stop and look because you've got all these bright colors in a row with cute dangles. And picturing like one of those booths on the beach where, I mean, if I was walking by this, I would have to grab an anklet like that and just put it on right on the spot and wear it. I'm already dreaming of warmer. Yeah. I've got warm vacation locales on my mind.
Last question, Danielle. How do you measure for the wrist size now?
Oh, for making this one? So if you don't know the measurement of whoever you're making it for, one of the great tools that Michael's has is they have a design board and it has little circles. And we did a class on using the design board for bracelet sizing, but you basically just pick up your design and you clasp it. And if you don't have your clasp on yet, just guesstimate for the length that you believe your clasp will take. And you place it into the tool and it will tell you the size of your bracelet. So if I don't know my recipient's wrist size, I'll make it a size 7, which is approximately 14 segments. I'll make it a 7, and then I'll throw another inch or 2 of chain on it.
That's an awesome tip.
And sometimes
is that your favorite size, Danielle? 7 plus extra chain?
I can't take credit for that one. I actually got that from another designer as a tip, and she sells a lot of work. And she had told me that at the end of the day, the bracelets that I sell the least are the 6 and the 6.5, and the ones she sells the most are 7. And then often people want 7.5 for the comfort of being able to put it on. So I just kind of went with that, and it's always worked for me. And again, all my leftovers after a show tend to be my 6s and 6.5s, and then
perfect.
But I do have, I do keep a few handy because sometimes people really want it to fit snugly and they want it to not hang down. And so I'll always have a few just in case somebody asks if I'm going to do a show.
Well, Danielle, that's perfect. And just noticing on the sidebar, Jessie's going to be in her very first fall festival tomorrow. So I'm going to wish her luck. And
wow.
So that's great news.
Oh, that's awesome. Good luck. Best of luck with that. That's awesome.
We did have some great classes coming up, and you do have a few minutes to just share them.
I did, yeah. Oops, sorry. I'm going to move this lamp because I keep hitting it. So I've been experimenting with trying to get the camera looking great for you guys. So I'm still working on it. And so next week is Thanksgiving in the US. So there's no class on Friday. We're back on December 3rd, which is the following Friday, with one of our premium classes. And that one is a class to learn how to finish peyote stitch bracelets and other types of peyote stitch designs. And so we have a plan, since we're going to be, we have, a gap between this and our next class. We're going to go ahead and post this peyote stitch pattern in our Bead group, so you can get a head start working it. And then if you would like to join our premium class for finishing, that's on December 3rd. And we're going to show how to do a button and leather loop closure and stitch it into the peyote. So it's an advanced class, but not too advanced, and really fun. And the pattern will be in our group later on this evening. I'm going to go ahead and make a pretty cover for it and post it. The pattern looks like this. It's, just your standard peyote stitch pattern. And it's got your word chart. And if anyone is new to peyote and has questions, I do have a bunch of resources I can send you on peyote stitching. We've done a few classes. We've actually done, I think we've done like 4 peyote stitch starting classes. We will cover that in the premium class as well. We'll cover starting it, reading patterns, but there's a few resources already out there that we've done that you can check out too. And let's see. And so then the next class, December 10th, is the poinsettia bracelet. It's the one I'm wearing. And we have, that's a really fun one. I mentioned it's right angle weave again. I'm going to take it off and show you a little bit better. So it starts, this is the back, And it starts with just 4 super duos right angle weaved. And it looks like a star, a little star chain. It's really fun. And then of course I had to embellish it, right? So I threw a bunch of size 6 seed beads and I threw a bunch of super duos in between every other segment. And it ended up looking like little poinsettia flowers. Totally accidental, but loved it. So we went with it. And that one, you can get this handout now on michaels.com/classes. And then we'll build it together on the 10th of December. And then last but not least, if you are into earrings and really fast gift ready earrings and you like delicas, this is one I made with all of the same colors that are in our holiday sweater bracelet. But I thought of that colorway later. The first colorway I thought of was crystal because it looks like an icicle hanging on your ears. And this one's going to be really fun. And that's the following Friday after that one. I believe that's the 17th of December, if I got that right. And that one is a really fun, super fast. You can make these in 20 minutes and then just throw them on an earring card and you've got a Christmas gift for an emergency Christmas gift if you need one. So yeah, that's what we've got coming up. And then, yeah, we'll have a bunch of like examples. I'm going to have a lot of extra time next week to work ahead on some different colorways and some different variations. So I'm hoping to have more to share and more to show you guys when we meet up next time. All right. Is there any other questions out there for me?
No, Danielle, sidebar is full of many, many thanks.
Oh, thank you guys. You guys are awesome. I'm wishing you a great Thanksgiving here in the US. And if you're in Canada, I'm just going to miss you next week. And I hope you have a great weekend as well. And we'll see you guys on the 3rd. All right. Have a great weekend, everyone.